What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my series where we're making a game similar to the I'm dead. Yeah, no, I'm dead. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my series where we're making a game similar to the game The Binding of Isaac. In one of the previous videos, we just made these corner rooms, and so we're creating another corner room that has an obelisk in it. And these obelisks are not going to be limited to corner rooms. I'm going to be putting them in multiple different rooms. And so I kind of have like an effect going on here. And what's going to happen is you walk into the circle, and there's going to be like a giant blue beam of light that goes shooting upwards. And then you're going to get some type of like stats upgrade or effect. There's also going to be the possibility of like a negative consequence. So like in a previous video, we made something called the black blob. And it's like this blob that just follows you between the rooms, and you can't damage it or kill it, and it doesn't disappear. Like, it's not in the enemy class series, so it will not disappear between rooms, and it just chases you around indefinitely until you end the level, or you find one of the cards that's going to get rid of it. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're also just going to quickly build this room. Oh my god, I have to stop sucking. Also, I think I left a hole at the top here, so I'm probably going to fix that too. But I don't think you actually need to put holes there. But this room is just a bunch of cubes. So if you've been following the series, you should probably be able to make this room by now. Maybe this part would be slightly difficult here, like making this little island thing, but everything else should be pretty easy. If you guys are, the entire project is available for download in the description of the video for free. If you guys are enjoying the series, make sure you like my video and subscribe to my channel. All right, so here we are in Blender, and so we're just going to delete the light and the camera, and if you click on the cube, we'll just go right to the modifiers, and you could just add a bevel modifier, and then from here, we'll just turn the bevel amount maybe up a little bit, change the segments to 3, and we kind of want this to be like ultra like rounded, so maybe just like lower this. Anyway, just find something that works for you, and then so we're going to duplicate this, so we'll press Shift D and we'll press Y, and just move this copy over here, and then you could hide it or whatever. So that way we have a copy that's already beveled and ready to go. And we just want to take this cube. We're just going to start with the actual obelisk itself, like the little island. We're just going to make the obelisk and the island at the same time. So if you select the object, you could go into edit mode and press S and Z to scale it down on the Z axis. And then so we want to press S and then Shift Z to scale it so that it's wider like this. And then if we go to face select, we can select the top face and press I to inset. This will automatically give you the diagonal effect that's on like the edges of it. And it will also create the base for the obelisk. So just make sure you make this like a size where you're leaving space for the circle. So there's going to be the circle here. So just make sure you like leave room there. It doesn't really matter how big it is or whatever. But then if you press E, you can extrude this and move it up to like here. And then you can press I again and inset this here. And then press E again, and this can go up to here. And then you can scale this down like this. And so this looks very thin for the obelisk. So if it's too thin, in face select, if you hold Alt and select one of these lines, you can select these things. And you can just press probably S to scale this and make it larger. And then if you press Alt Z, you can get the see-through mode and go to line select, and then select these lines and scale them out as well so that you can have like a fatter base. It just needs to be a little bit fatter. And so this looks a little bit better. And so we still have space there for that. And so then at this point, you could make it a little bit rounded like I did, or you could just leave it like this. This is fine as well. Remember, we're just kind of making like a low detail, low poly game. So if you want, you could do this and create these, and then take each of these individual, press Alt and click on the line to select it, and you can scale them outwards a little bit like this if you want to. And then you could select this, and if you want to smooth it out, you could press Control B to create your bevel on this individually. And so you could do this for all 3 of these if you want to. So it just makes the transition a little bit smoother, so it looks like more like this. And then we need to disconnect the bottom part from the top part. So like if you go back into edit mode, press Alt Z, you get the see-through mode, go to line select and select this bottom line. And then you want to rip this. So I think if you press V or Shift spacebar, I don't know, let's press V. So if you press V, that disconnects it from the platform at the bottom. And so then we want to press P, not P, L, press L. So if you press L after you've ripped it from the bottom, then because this makes it a different object, right? So you can press G and Z and you can see that these are 2 separate objects now. So we just want to go into the line select and fill. So press F to fill the base there. And then you can fill the bottom here as well. And then we'll press L on this and hold control and actually just click off of everything and press L on the top part so that you can select this. And then we'll get a front view by pressing 1 on your number pad and then press G and Z and move it down so it's interacting with the ground. And then so we want to name these. So we want this actually to be a separate object. So let's go to face select and we'll press L here. And we'll press P and we'll just separate this by the selection. And so then you can press F2 and just call this obelisk. Obelisk. Is that the right spelling? Obelisk. Obelisk. Yeah, okay, that is the right spelling. It just looks weird to me. I don't know. And then you want to call the bottom part obelisk base. So then in the base, to add some more detail, if we use the face select, you can hold Alt and select one of these diagonals, and then you can press I on your keyboard and then press I again. And so that will inset it this way. And then I think I just press E like that to move it down a little bit. So it has like some stuff going around it. Now you can see that this has gotten rid of the bevel modifier. The bevel modifier is not working here. So let's lower the amount. Let's press Control Z for a second and we'll press I again. And so when you're in setting this, there has to be a certain distance between each thing for the bevel to work. So like if you drag this down more, you can see that the bevel actually gets applied, but we don't want to drag it down that far. Just drag it to about there, maybe. I think the bevel is still there because you can see that the edges are rounded now. So like you can tell because like if you increase the segments, you can see that it affects it. And then if you right click this, so in object mode, you can shade this smooth. And then you also want to shade this smooth. So that's kind of how I made the obelisk. Again, this is kind of your own discretion. Maybe it's better if it's not rounded. You could just make this however you want to. It's not like it's hard to do this. So let's unhide the cube that we had over here. And we'll just make sure this is actually named obelisk. Oh, and also make sure that you have materials on both things because you're going to change the materials in the game. So then if you take this cube that we made or whatever, you can go into edit mode, scale it on the Z axis. So S and Z to lower the size or the scale of this. And then, so we just wanted to make like little islands that lead to the thing. So this is too big. So if you select this, press A to select everything in object mode and you press S, Shift Z, you can scale this to be smaller. And so one of the things about this room is going to be that you have to walk to the obelisk and we're trying to make it a little bit difficult to actually get there without falling. So after you've created this, you can press Shift D, still in edit mode. And before you do this, press 7 on your number pad. So you have like a top down view. If you move things in top down view, it won't move it up and down on like the Z axis. So like it won't go like this up and down. So if you're doing this from a direct top down view, it won't go. Yeah. So again, S, Shift and Z to scale this. So we want to make this like super duper tiny like this. And at this point, we're going to actually lower the amount of the bevel so that the cubes have like rounded edges, but they're not actually like getting circular. You can also apply the rotation and scale to make the bevel apply correctly. So probably do that for maybe everything. I don't know. I think we only modify these in edit mode, so it shouldn't matter. But anyway, so you can press L to select this again, Shift D, and then it's at this point, like you just basically are making a pathway that's going to lead to a main area over here. So let's make the main area really quickly. So if we just scale this to about that, so we just have like different size cubes here, right? So if we still in edit mode, you can press L on this and then Shift D, X and move it over. And then the difference for this one is going to be that we just want to take this face at the bottom and press G and Y. So I went Alt Z to get see-through mode. And then we're just going to change this so that it's kind of like this. And then again, it's just the same thing. So you can press L to select this, Shift D, X, move it over. Maybe this one goes out a little bit more or a lot more. It doesn't matter. This is your room. Make it however you want to, right? And then you can press L again, Shift D, X, and then eventually you'll get to a spot where you're like, okay, I want the door here. So let's move this one, G and Y to move this up. So that's a little bit smaller. So we want the door here. Like we're going to have a wall all the way across here. So if we press Control R, we can make a loop cut here. and press Control R again, and we'll make another loop cut here. And then we want to do the same kind of thing for all of these pieces. And so then you can select all these faces by holding Shift and clicking them. Oops, why is this giving me so many problems? Oh, here we go. Okay, that's more normal. Okay, that was super weird. I don't know why that was giving me so many problems. And it just turned the amount down a little bit more. So yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much how I made that. And then I just connected these obviously with the cubes. So then you need to do the same thing to the other door. So just create the same thing with the cubes that lead to another door that's down here. When you're done, you can go file, export FBX file, and then just make sure you choose FBX unit scale. And then that's pretty much how we've been adding all of our objects to the game. So you can export it. And I'm not going to export this one because I like the one that I have, but you can export it if you end up making something that you like. I don't think there's any purpose of me going and making the other half of this. Okay, so then back in the actual game itself, you just need to copy the doors from some of the other rooms. So like, for example, my start room has a doors folder on it, and you can just copy one of the doors that we already made and just put them in the area. So when you're putting these in, because it's a corner-wise room, you have to follow the same doors that are existing. So the one that you're putting over here, when you drag this in, when you drag the room in, you resize it so that it fits. So if you click on the right door here in the scene view, you can see that the right door is the one my character is closest to. So the right door inside of this room that we've made has to be the same door, because when we go into it, we want to make sure our character appears in front of the correct door. So we only have a right door and a bottom door. So it's important that the doors are named correctly. And so remember, with the way that our code is working, you have to put the doors in a folder called doors, and they have to be literally named right door and bottom door. It's case sensitive. And then, yeah, so that's pretty much it for just making like the room itself. And so now we're going to make this like little circular effect, and then we're going to deal with the what happens afterwards. All right, so you might be surprised to know that we're just using the default particle for this little circle. I think this looks really cool. Initially, I was gonna like actually make like a model or something like that, or like a circle in Blender and put it in there, but I think this looks good the way that it is. So, so to make this, you have to turn on the visual effect graph. That's what we're using. So if you go to Window Package Manager, you can search in the Unity registry, and you can type in the word visual. And one of the options should be the visual effect graph. So if you don't have this, you have to press install here and it will turn it on. And so then at the bottom, if you right click, you can create a visual effect graph by choosing this option. And then so after you've created it, you can drag it into your scene, and then it should appear as like little like things that are floating upwards. And so let's get rid of this one that I've just made, and let's go and view the one that we have here. So here is the graph. Hopefully I can maybe zoom in a bit more. I don't know. So we're not spawning a lot of particles. We're spawning 25, and the capacity is 1000 because our lifetime of the particles is really high. We're setting the size random per component. So it's important when you click on this on the right here, there's some options. So the composition is set to overwrite. This is the first size thing. So every size change below this, we have to make sure that it multiplies with the size that's there. So then we're setting the position of the particles into a circle, and we've changed the radius of the circle to be a random number between 2 and 5. So each of the particles that's spawning, so let's say we're spawning in a circle. So the particles are spawning between 2 and like maybe like 5. So they're spawning at a random distance between 2 and 5 in the circle. Yeah, and so we've rotated the circle to be 90 degrees so that it's like facing towards the camera. To add a random number or any of these things, you just press spacebar. So if you click on an initialized particle, for example, you can press spacebar. And if you type in circle, one of the options is this arc circle. So that's how you add things. So the same thing with the random number. If you just click in the space over here, you can type in random, and that's how you add things to this. So then we're setting the velocity. So we're getting the position of where the circle is, and we're multiplying that by 6. So this means that it will move away from the point that it's at. So let's go back here. So if the particle, this is the center of the circle, and let's say the particle spawns here, we're setting the velocity to be in the direction from the center. So it will go outwards like this, like on a cornerwise angle, while so we're adding a very slight velocity that pushes it away from the center. So you can see that like these particles are going away from the center as they're rotating. And then we're also using the position to rotate it on the 3D axis, on the y-axis, which is like top down in Unity. And we're this angle number is how fast it will rotate. So this has to be a very, very slow number. And we're this is getting put into the update particle where we're setting the position. So this will make these spin in a circle based on how high this number is. Then we're outputting the particle as a quad. So a quad is just like a square box that is only one-sided. These are additives. So if they go on top of each other, they'll become more glowy. We're just choosing default particle system, which is default. You have this as an option in Unity. I think it's this one right here. And then we're setting the size over life. Make sure you change this to be multiply. If you have it on overwrite, it won't work. And then we're setting the size to go from 1 down to half of the initial size. So they shrink as they get further along in their lifetime. And then we're setting the color over life. So it starts full transparency and it goes down to 0 over the lifetime. And the initial color is this blue color with a 4.7 intensity. So it's a little bit brighter. You can even like dial this up if you want to. You can see the effect that it has in the actual game. So I think that it's fine the way it is. I don't know. It's supposed to be kind of like, I don't know. It shouldn't be like overpowering. You shouldn't see it and be like, oh my God, there's a circle, right? It should just be like it's there and you can see it. So that's it for making the visual effect graph. So let's dock this and we're going to copy it. And now we're going to make a thing that will shoot up towards the screen. All right. So now we need to make the effect that shoots up. So if you right click at the bottom, you can create a new visual effect graph and we'll just call this the shoot up effect. And you can do this while it's running if you want to. If you drag this into the scene while it's running, though, it will disappear afterwards. But the effect will still say generated, so it doesn't really matter. So we're going to be doing this from a top-down, like in the game view perspective. And let's just... actually, we'll leave it at 0, 0, because when we spawn it, we're going to want it to be there. So if you double-click on this, we're going to just drag this maybe like... Come on. And one thing that really sucks is I wish I could port the project to Unity 6, because in Unity 6 the visual effect graph has become like a lot cooler and like it has a lot more options and it looks pretty. It's pretty sweet. And unfortunately, porting this project to Unity 6 didn't work. I tried it and it completely failed. But anyway, so in this, it's just going to be one burst of particles, and it could just be one particle. If you're using a mesh, you could put like a cylinder, and then you could have the cylinder like expand or something like that. But just type in the word burst, and I didn't make this ahead of time, so if this doesn't turn out great, like I don't know. Actually, we're just going to do simple heads and trails, and we're going to get rid of the initial system. So it will just be this new system. And we don't want a constant spawn rate. We just want this to be a burst. And the count can be like 100 for now. It might be less or more. I don't know. And the capacity, because it's a burst, you could just match it with that. So let me just make this a little bit bigger so you can actually see it. So then in the initialized particle, we're going to set this to a circle the same way we're doing for the one that's spinning over here. And so the circle has to have very similar sizing. So just set the radius to 5, and then the angles can be 90 on the x-axis so that it's facing sideways. And so you can see it here spawning. So then we only want the velocity to be on the y-axis. But we also want it to go towards the center of the circle. So we can probably use like the dot product to get that. But let's just see what it looks like without doing that. So we can leave these two, but this should be between like 5 and 25. And maybe between like 100 and 500. We want this to blast upwards. Yeah, that's pretty sweet looking. Okay. And so then these colors, because it's a blue circle, we really want them to be blue as well. So just make it like more of a bluey color. And then the end result, we don't need these to all be different colors. So let's just change these all to be blue. And then this looks like it's red. Oh no, it's blue. What's up with the purple in the middle? So the alpha is full. At the end of this, alpha should be 0, probably. I don't know if alpha actually affects this. It depends on what it is, but... Okay, and we want the lifetime to be between 1 and... Or sorry, 0.1 and 1. This should be a very, very brief effect. Okay, so now we also need to change the lifetime of the trail, like the after effect. So let's change that to 1. Wow, it's looking pretty cool already, right? So then the color could just be a little bit more pungent. So we're sitting at 6 there, but because it's so dark of a blue, you can't really see the... let's just change it to 10 maybe. Oh, you know what it is? It's the trail. The trail has to... Oh, that looks pretty sick. Okay. And then down here, default particle facing inherit source color. So it would be the same color as like the source. So that's pretty cool. And then, so we also want this to spin while it's doing this. So let's just make this a little bit bigger. And so the same way that we did this with the thing, make sure you save your project. So if you're, oh, you can't do this in play mode. Crap. I guess it's, I already saved before I started doing this. This should be saved as long as you press the save button. This might crash it depending on what you do. You have to be really careful. There's no like blocking or like safeguards or anything like that. So if you like put too many particles or you do something wrong, you can... Anyway, so let's just set this to 0.002, just same as the spin that we have on the circle. And then we'll put this into... Oh, we need to do the update particle. So down here, if we didn't... Oh, crap. Set position. We'll put this at the top, but then the turbulence is not going to work because we're setting the position. So what about 0.2? This can be crazy. All right, so let's just try 0.1. I think 0.2 is a little bit much. Maybe 0.5. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. It would be ideal if at the very top of it, maybe it can join at the middle, like it went inwards. So if we do this to here, then we can multiply this by -1 so that it goes away from the center. So before, when we were making these go away from the center, we want them to go towards the center now. So they're going to go towards the middle. And we can't set the velocity with this because we're already setting the velocity. So we want to add velocity. And we'll do this. So just put this after here. And then we'll put this here. So then if we go into the scene view and we press play, and then let's just do -25 and see how that goes. That's pretty cool. Okay, so just do -5. Wow, that's looking pretty sweet. So then we just want this to be a lot brighter, but I don't know how we're going to do that. Maybe we'll just put this into this color. I don't know. Okay, so what does this look like? I think that looks pretty sweet. Maybe this needs to actually stay a little bit bluer. Now the intensity, can this go over this? Oh, it can. Okay, so let's see how that looks. That's maybe a little bit too much. So let's save this. And then like the speed at which it's going upwards, maybe this should be to 200. How does that look? Yeah, so it doesn't go like off the screen so quickly. Guys, I really like how this looks. This turned out really good. I just guesstimated how to do this, so I'll probably tone it up a little bit and change some things, but I think this is a pretty cool effect. So now what we want to do is we can put the shoot up effect at the top, and then we just need to save this shoot up effect because we did this while the game was running. So just drag this down to the bottom. And because we only want this to play when you walk into the circle anyway. So we don't need this to be on the level anymore. So we can stop out of this. And then we need to make a script where you walk into this circle and you interact with it. So let's actually create it right here. So create a C# script and call this obelisk script. And then so in the circle, we can drag this script. And then if we double click on it, we can go into it. All right, so before we continue, we need to add a collider to this. So just add a box collider and we'll go into the scene view. Just click this little gizmo-y button thing and we can see what this looks like. So this is going to be okay. We really want it to only kind of happen when you're in the center of the circle. So if like you touch the edge, you don't actually have to make this. You want people to be able to go kind of near it without it actually triggering by accident. So just speaking of trigger, so make this into a trigger. So then if we save this, we can go into the script and we need to declare a public game object, blaster effect, and then we don't need a start method. We don't need an update either. So on trigger enter if other dot name to lower dot contains stick. So my character is named Stick Wizard. So just make sure like you've named your character Stick Wizard or this is matching up with whatever your character's name is. So if this exists, like if we walk into it, we don't want this to happen if our attacks walk into it or anything else. Like there's lots of stuff that can be like following you around and stuff like that. We only want this to happen if it's your actual character that does this. So then we want to instantiate the blaster effect at the location of this circle. And the rotation doesn't matter. Oh yeah, it does matter. So let's just do the blaster effect, transform rotation. And so after this is done, we want to destroy it after. So destroy after 3 seconds. So it's going to disappear because it doesn't repeat. So it only happens once. So after 3 seconds, the game object that will be left in the hierarchy will get deleted automatically. And I think this should work as is. And then we also want to destroy the circle too. So the second that this happens, like if we walk into it with our character, we want to destroy this circle. And so then we also need like a Boolean or some check to make sure that our character doesn't trigger this multiple times. So like, let's say you walk into this. You could also have it where like you walk into it and it has a chance of like disappearing or giving you something. That way you can get something multiple times. And it's kind of like a gambling thing. Maybe we'll set that up after this. But anyway, so we want a Boolean here. Already triggered is false. So then we want to do and not already triggered. Already trigger is equal to true. If you don't do this, it could happen multiple times. And yeah, so if it happens multiple times, that'll suck. So let's just let's run this and see what happens. Okay, so we just want to turn off this start room. And we do this. Oh, we didn't drag in the blaster effect. Okay, so inside of the obelisk circle, we added this blaster effect. You need to drag this shoot up effect. Make sure you do the game object, not the visual effect, into this slot. And then we also made already triggered public. We didn't need to do that. It shouldn't be public. So we'll fix that after. But let's do this. Cool. So I think that we need more particles. So let's drag this back in here for now. And we'll go to the game view. And we'll open this up again. And let's just make this like 1,000. And I think, okay, hang on. No. Don't make it 1,000. Let's leave it as 100. But over here in the strip capacity, change this to 100. And then let's do 200 or 300 for this. Okay, save. That's pretty cool. So we don't want it to go probably that far away from the center. Let's just change this to -1. 15. Oh, that's kind of cool. So it overlaps in the middle. Okay. Yeah, so you could play with this effect off off the camera. So like, yeah, just play with this effect and make it whatever you want. I'm probably going to do a lot of work on the effect off the camera. I just made this on the fly, so it's not going to be perfect immediately. So yeah, so if you walk into it, you see this cool effect and it disappears. So that's kind of like what we wanted. So then we also want to have, so let's delete the effect from the scene. We also want to have that pop-up box appear over top of everything telling you what item you picked up or what the effect is that happened. So that is in the item manager script. When we pick up an item, we find this. So just I'm just going to copy this in here. So, and then we can take this and get rid of this. Okay, so we don't want to add an item. So this is where so then we can do item manager. You have triggered. I'm triggered. So if you press Control F, it will format your code or whatever so that all of the lines align perfectly. And then if you set this up, you can press Control ED and you can delete the lines. I think I covered that in a previous video at some point. I don't remember. But anyway, so this should make the pop-up that we covered in the item video, which is a video that we made where we added the item room to the game. So this should make the pop-up appear over top of everything. So it tells you that I'm triggered. So this is where we would random, right? So we could random a random number and then different things could happen based on what you random. So let's make this part into a method. So private void pop up text. And then this will take text. And then this can go here. So then if we do random.value, float x is equal to random.value. So this will random a number between 0 to 1. So then you could have a bunch of different possibilities based on these values. So if x is less than 0.1, then player dot damage plus equals 1. If x is less than 0.2 and is greater than 0.1, then we could do player dot speed plus equals 1. I think you see where I'm going with this. And so then after that, you could add pop-up text to display what happened, right? So you would just write damage plus 1. And then maybe add some like exclamation marks or something, or just maybe 1 exclamation mark. It doesn't, and you can make whatever you want to pop up here, right? So then speed +1. So I'm not going to go through the whole list of possibilities, but I'll just do if x is greater than 0.2, then this will be the last case scenario. I'm obviously going to add way more than this, but this is going to take a bunch of time. And one of the options for this is going to be spawning the black blob, which is something very cool. I made a video on how to make the black blob. It's like a floating black kind of like crazy looking blob that we made in a previous video. I'll show a picture of it on the screen in a second. But if it's above 9 or something, it's going to spawn like that black blob. But we'll just do attack speed here. And you can also have minuses as well. So like half of these could be good and half could be bad. So it's like a dice roll when you walk into it. But I think this should pretty much cover it, right? So let's see if this works. So again, we'll turn off the start room. Attack speed +1. And attack speed +1 doesn't really have too big of an impact. But yeah, so you can see that's how it's going to work. That's going to be it for the day. Also, so we made this room that's called 0. So what we need to do with the room is in the corner rooms. So there's top left rooms, top right rooms, bottom left, bottom right. So right now we have a right door and a bottom door. So this would be a bottom right room. You want to drag this into this folder and rename this to 1. So that way, when you go into a corner-wise room, this will be an option. If you do want to put this same room into the other folders, you can. You just have to rename the doors and rotate the room so that it makes sense. All right, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. If you guys are enjoying the series, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Like I said at the beginning, the entire project is available for download for free in the description of the video. You're welcome to download it and use any of the content however you want to. I've also seen some of the comments you guys have been leaving, so I think that's really awesome. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.